Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Saturday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing awesome out there this morning and having a wonderful start to your day and a great beginning to your new weekend out there so far. Appreciate y'all joining me. We got a lot to cover in this morning's video. The tropics is the heavy topic out there in the weather world, and rightfully so. We have a tropical wave that's emerged fully off Africa. It has everybody's attention, has a shot to develop over the next several days. Per the National Hurricane Center, this is not coming from just random people off YouTube or on social media. The experts at the National Hurricane Center see this also. And I do think this has a chance to become our first hurricane of this hurricane season here in the Atlantic. So we'll go over current conditions, the latest outlooks from the National Hurricane Center, and then we'll speak on all model guidance from overnight into this morning. We'll have a geeking out session of this video. We'll kind of explain the environmental background of the Atlantic, steering currents. A lot of people are obviously wondering if this does develop, where is it going to go? I'll speak on some possibilities there, and then we'll round the video off with today's forecast. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. If anybody has anything that I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling. So let's make sure this is going to work for us first. And it is, so we're good to go. So always start these updates on the tropics, taking a huge look at the entire Atlantic. And right now, as far as what I can circle, we do have kind of a blow up of convection right here that once upon a time had a 40-50% chance to develop. But this is sort of just not really gaining any tropical characteristics. It's really just a non-tropical low pressure, but it is interesting. It's popping off some pretty heavy convection. We got a lot of unsettled weather across portions of Florida, the Bahamas, and just off the coast of the Southeast. This is what's left over, or what's going on with Invest 96L. Once upon a time, this had a 60% chance to develop, but even if it was, a lot of model guidance always like the idea of this kind of just recurving and heading even deeper out into the North Atlantic. But what has everybody's attention is this tropical wave right here. A little bit of a low rider, at least right now. And this just looks like your classic tropical wave emerging off Africa into the Eastern Atlantic. And what we will watch for over the next several days is where this goes. And more importantly, just over the next, I would say, 5 to 7 days, if this develops, if this maintains itself and eventually enters a portion of the Atlantic that I'm a little bit more concerned about, where we'll have a shot to really get going and really strengthen into our first hurricane of the season. So just kind of want to circle all the pieces out there in the Atlantic right now. Let's take a closer look at this wave. The sun has came up on it. Obviously, it's came up on the eastern U.S. Coastline this morning. It's around 7:15 a.m. Eastern time right now in my location, but the sun's obviously came up on this tropical wave way out here as the screen brightens up. But this just, like I said, looks like your classic tropical wave. And when we speak on a wave, you got a tropical wave, then you got a depression, and then you got a named storm, a tropical storm. That's when it takes a name, which, by the way, the next name is Aaron with an E. And then you get to Category 1 hurricane status or higher, and it goes all the way up to 5. So if you're always wondering what's kind of the levels of this, that's it. So tropical wave, it has a little bit of a spin to it, and I think that's why some model guidance like the GFS is very aggressive with the strength of this system over the next really few days, and I'll explain what it shows here in a second. But this is it. It's a pretty impressive looking tropical wave right now. If I had to guess, it could become an invest over the next few days, if not next 24 to 48 hours over the weekend. So the latest from the National Hurricane Center. Now listen, I'm going to see if I can catch the latest update, and I didn't. So I got lucky last night. Before I get into this, I will tell you we are right at the fringe of the next update per the National Hurricane Center. They will literally issue another update probably any second now. But this is the latest from around 1:30, 2 o'clock last night, a.m., and right now, we are at a 30% chance. We're going to ignore Invest 96L. Not going to speak on that at all. All of our attention, this update on the tropics is going to be on this tropical wave. So now, if you watch last night's video or anybody's information, this had a 20% chance of developing. Now it's up to a 30. So where this yellow X is, this is where they think kind of the central portion of this tropical wave is, right? It's just now emerged off the coastline of Africa, and it has a 30% chance to develop in this yellow area within the next 7 days. Now, the reason I am really wanting to catch the next update from the National Hurricane Center is I really think they'll bump this from a 30 to a 40% chance sometime over the next several updates. And I'm trying to catch that 7:30, 8 a.m. update for you guys, so I actually have another tab up at the very end of the video to try to catch it at the very end. But as of right now, we got a 30% chance of development. I always want to try to get you guys the latest information, and I really think they will bump this from a 30 to a 40% chance. So let's just go on and move past this. Take from this that the National Hurricane Center sees this wave and that they see that this has a legitimate shot to develop. So let's begin to go over all model guides. We'll start off further out and then get closer with each model. The first one we'll look at is the Euro, and we're going to start this off Monday morning. Has a 10-11 millibar low pressure. That's still just a tropical wave. Always remember, the lower this number goes, the stronger the low pressure. Once you start to see around a 1,000 millibar low, you know you're starting to get close, if not at tropical storm status, which that means that it takes a name. So we continue to move forward here. We take it to Tuesday morning, and it's still a weak wave. It's gaining some latitude, meaning it's getting a little bit further north. We take it to Wednesday morning, still staying, I can't talk, about the same strength. Okay, weak tropical wave. We get to about Thursday morning, still the same. All right, 10-10 millibar low. We go to about the end of next week, next Friday. Remember, if I forget to say any days of the week, any dates, it's right up here. Ignore the Zulu time. FRI stands for Friday, August 15th. So at this point, it's began to drop a little bit as far as millibar. So it's 1,005 millibar low pressure. It's beginning to strengthen. So let's go on and skip to this now. So this is this coming Friday morning, August the 15th. We move this to Saturday morning. Now it's 1,000 millibar low. One would argue that's probably a tropical storm now. Okay, now watch how fast this number begins to drop as it enters what we call the Southwest Atlantic, or you can call it the Western Atlantic. Okay, Puerto Rico here, Leeward Islands here, Hispaniola, etc., Cuba, Southeast coastline. We start to get into next Sunday morning, not this Sunday morning. So we get past that 7-day period, and it strengthens into a 989 millibar low. One would argue that's a Category 1 hurricane, and then it gets even stronger. And then it gets even stronger. So at this point, we're at the morning of August 19th. Yes, we're going to be talking about this for a long time. And now we have a strong hurricane. Who knows? 957 millibars can mean a Category 2 or 3 hurricane. Millibars don't always tell us the category. It's just you just kind of guess. Okay, it doesn't always correlate exactly to wind speeds. But you got Bermuda right here. It's definitely well west of Bermuda, but still south of still east of the southeast coastline. This is beginning to gain some latitude, begins to turn, and then we'll stop it right here. That's as far out as we need to go. 300 hours out, looks like it's making the turn, scraping the outer banks. Not a forecast. Remember that. All the model guidance I'm going to show you, what I want you to take from this is, and I keep reiterating this on my videos, like I said, don't tell everybody and your brothers, uncles, dogs, cow, that there's going to be a hurricane right outside the Bahamas 10 days from now. Okay, that's not what you take from this. What you take from this is everything I'm about to show you, it shows a strengthening wave getting into a tropical storm hurricane status in this area. Okay? So if any energy gets in this area, what you take from this is it's going to have an opportunity to strengthen into a hurricane. No doubt about it. That I'm confident in. Not saying that's going to happen because we got to see if this thing survives this area. Okay? So the GFS would start off midday Monday, August the 11th. It wants to get this to a 999 millibar low right out the gate. That means that this thing is going to strengthen into a tropical storm sometime probably this weekend based off what the GFS thinks. So we move this forward. I mean, as a 990 millibar low by Tuesday, by Wednesday, it's kind of getting somewhat stronger, 980. And then we take it all the way into Friday morning. Guys, it has a 972 millibar low already developing. By the way, model guidance is already starting to light the idea of another wave behind this, but we're not going to focus too much on this. All of our attention needs to go to this. So Friday morning, you got a strong hurricane. You got a major hurricane at this point. Anytime I say major hurricane, it's Category 3 or stronger. Just northeast of the Leeward Islands, 961, no doubt about it. That's probably a Category 3 hurricane. High-end Category 2. So we stop it right here. And now we flip to this. And I keep doing this. I'm going to have to flip to that. And then probably, yeah. So we're good. Okay. 972. Let's make sure we got the latest 06Z. Let's move this out of the way. Yeah, 06Z. So latest GFS run. Here it comes. And then we get to about a week from right now. 961 millibar strong hurricane on the GFS. Same thing. It wants to strengthen this once it slips kind of into the western sections of the Atlantic. Okay, Puerto Rico right here, Leeward Islands, Got Bermuda right here, this little speck on the map. This is next Sunday morning. Okay, so this is August the 17th, not tomorrow morning. Huge hurricane right there. And then it just continues to maintain its strength. It's a major hurricane at this point, almost exactly where the Euro is. And this is 10 days out, and it begins to turn north. I'm going to tell you why it turns north here in a second, based off model guidance. So just hold with me. So we get to, 10, 11 days from now, this thing is an extremely strong hurricane, but it turns out to sea. But then it kind of looks like it begins to hook back north. It looks like, okay, this thing's heading on out, and we got to watch out for our family here in Bermuda. And then it kind of jolts back north. Now, I'm going to stop it there. I know my folks in the Northeast are probably like, man, show us, please. Well, I will. I don't want to leave you guys hanging. Let's take a broad look. This is how close it gets. In Atlantic Canada, you absolutely need to watch out for this. But it's so far away that, I don't want to get overly detailed. But this is the latest GFS. It even misses the Northeast. Now, the Euro makes a technical landfall on Cape Cod as a hurricane and brings huge impacts, but it misses the southeast coastline. I don't want any of you guys to take from this that, okay, we're good in the southeast. That's not coming out my mouth. We're looking at model guidance. I really want you to focus on that between now and 10-day period. Okay? So Euro AI model, does it continue to lock in to what the other model guidance shows? We take it to about the end of this week, 10-11 millibar low. It follows the Euro. We're keeping this pretty weak through the MDR, the main development region. By the way, another wave right behind it. We're not going to focus on that. Here it comes slipping up on your screen. Watch how that millibar begins to drop. Okay, now it's a tropical storm. We get 10 days out. It's a hurricane just outside the Bahamas, north of the Turks Caicos, 10 days from now. And even the Euro AI model is starting to sniff the idea of turning. When lately, it's been just wanting to get this south and get into the Gulf. And now even has this turning, but maybe this has a bit of a south bias. The Euro AI model is definitely a new model on the block. Started really last year, but it plows a hurricane right into the Carolina coastline based off this model, not a forecast. So if anybody makes any clips of this, make sure you clip that in too. Okay? We take from this that the Euro, the GFS, the Euro AI model gets a tropical wave into this area about 7 to 8 to 9 days from now and strengthens it into a hurricane. I want to say the Canadian model show. Same thing. Gets into this area, strengthens it, turns it pretty quick. Okay, so just to kind of show some other model guides. What about the Euro Ensemble? Remember, this makes up 51 members. You're going to see many L's on your screen. If there's all the members that form on your screen, doesn't mean there's 30 or 40 low pressures. So please don't think that, right? So we're going to start this off Tuesday morning. Has a lot of members cluttered up right here. Ignore this. This is, and guys, I know I keep saying ignore 96L, which is in Invest right now, and it could take the name Aaron. It could before this. And then this becomes what, Fernand? I think that's the way you pronounce it, the F name. So that could happen. I don't want to make this a lock to become Aaron with an E. Okay, but we start to get into Thursday, we get into Friday of next week, and this is when all these L's, which are so kind of clustered up, begin to spread apart. After the week one time frame, we get between day, let's just go on and take a little zoomed in look at this. Okay. We get about a week from right now. Now watch how all those L's begin to spread apart. Okay. This is day 10. You got some making an abrupt turn. Bermuda, this is definitely a pattern you want to watch. You got some still hanging south. There's a pretty large spread. Thousands of miles. Okay. So we don't know where this is going to go. But I'm going to explain why a lot of members recurve, or at least hook north. Just because it recurves doesn't mean it's not going to hit anybody. Okay, and there's some strong members in there. Almost all these members are strengthening. Okay, what about the GFS Ensemble? Which, by the way, let's see if we have the 06Z run. No, we only got 114 hours out. So let's go on and flip it back to this, and now we're going to have to reload the map, so I apologize. But, oh, no, we don't. We're good. Okay, so, yeah, we do. But we get to about Friday morning, okay, about 6 days from now. Remember, The GFS ensemble only makes up 21 members. Naturally, you're not going to see as many L's on your screen, but same thing. Model is locked into a wave surviving the MDR. When I say MDR, I mean this area right here, the main development region, and getting into an area of the ocean that I've been saying for about a week that we don't need any tropical energy to get into, and that is the Southwest Atlantic. The environment is very favorable for significant strengthening of a tropical system. I'm going to dive into that here in a second. Let's go on and take a closer look at this, right? Here it is. Moving forward here, we're getting past day 7, and we take it to day 10, and that's where I'm going to stop it at, even though it goes further. There's some very strong members here. Almost every single one of these members are a hurricane. Everything's beginning to turn. How fast does it turn? You got to get this to turn fast. This is going to get very close if it develops. Okay, so big spread though, just like the Euro ensemble. All right, let's discuss the environmental background. This is the part of the video that lulls some people to sleep, I'm sure. They probably skipped this part, but it's very important. I'm never going to be the guy that jumps on here and show you a bunch of model runs and heads on out. And this is why a big reason why my videos go a pretty long time. So the first thing we'll look at is dry and moist air. And we're going to start off in the MDR, main development region, in the shorter term of this system. Dry air is in brown, moist air is in the green. Pretty cut and dry, right? So here's our tropical system right here. It's got a plume of moist air around it. And for the most part, it's able to protect itself with this moist air. But it limits, development is limited because of this big kind of area of dry air out ahead of the system. So this kind of prevents it from developing. Now, once it gets about right here, regardless of dry air or not, the upper wind pattern improves. So it does begin to kind of, have a pretty good cocooned area of moisture here. Now, what's interesting to me, in about a week, some dry air does make it in. But watch how this number just continues to get to lower anyways. The low pressure gets stronger. And then this thing taps into a very favorable upper wind pattern and really cocoons itself with deep moisture. There's a difference between just moisture and deep moisture, right? Very moist air. Okay, so in the shorter to medium term, I really buy the Euro. And I might be wrong. GFS might be on to something. And I think that this is just going to struggle with dry air still out in the Atlantic Basin. And the Euro model has been showing that for quite some time. What about the upper wind pattern? This is a part that can be tricky to explain. So what you're looking at is winds at about 200 millibars, about 40,000 feet up in the air. That's an area of the atmosphere that's actually above these tropical systems. So above this system, the first thing I'll say is you have light flow aloft. I mean, you just don't have a lot of strong wind flow. The wind flow is stronger where you see these kind of areas of blue, stronger winds at 40,000 feet down here. And some of this is created by what could be a tropical system itself. So that's the first thing I'll note. Not a lot of flow in the upper levels of the atmosphere. So this allows this system to sort of just not be affected by really any significant wind shear because there isn't a lot of flow in the upper levels of the atmosphere, whether it's going one way or the other, whether it's fast, there's no speed shear, no directional shear. This thing just is able to thrive. Another thing is because of that, it allows for a lot of divergence aloft, a lot of air to be dispersed outward. So we'll look at this really quick. And this kind of backs up what I just explained, not a lot of flow. So what you're looking at is basically low pressure and high pressure. High pressure being in this kind of salmon pinkish color right here. Low pressure, the only low pressure I see is the actual low pressure of this tropical system itself, which is right here. But you notice there's a lot of white around here, which means there's just lack of flow. So this system is not really being bothered by any sort of upper level low feature, a tut, no strong just directional flow in different levels of the atmosphere. It just kind of can thrive and almost create its own environment. I've been talking a lot on that, and I think that this is a good case of this. So these two things I've just showed you are the Euro ensemble. If you look at the actual, well, this is the operational run, but if you look at the operational run and go back to 200 millibar flow, this is a great example of this thing sort of saying, okay, well, if there's no significant upper level flow anywhere, I'm going to create my own environment. So what this thing does is it gets into the Southwest Atlantic, okay, where the upper wind pattern definitely slows down and improves, and these things spin in the low to mid levels cyclonically. in the northern hemisphere, right? So in the low to mid levels, it's spinning like this. Above the system, if you look at these little squiggly lines with the arrows embedded into them, air is being dispersed outward. And this is literally creating its own outflow. Okay, now maybe a little bit of air working against it right here. And I think that's why a little bit of dry air tries to penetrate it a week from now. I think that's why it showed it just a second ago. But in general, just what we call divergence aloft. A lot of air is getting pushed out away from the system on top of it. This allows for more air to rise. And we could get just an all-out anticyclone on top of the system, which really allows this thing to really breathe and do well. So what I mean by rising air is, and air being dispersed outward. So air rises through these systems. That allows for shower and storm action. So in the upper levels, if air is being pushed away from the system, that allows for more air to rise faster. So rising air allows for convection, shower and storm activity. Shower and storm activity creates a moist environment. It cocoons that low-level circulation with that moist air. And we know that a tropical system likes moist air. They don't like dry air. So therefore, we got a thriving tropical system, one that could strengthen rapidly in this area of the Atlantic. And that's what I'm concerned about. So yeah, hope that makes sense. Just an environment, a favorable upper wind pattern. Okay, the next thing is the easiest one to explain out of all, and that's sea surface temperatures. We know that warm waters, these tropical systems like warm waters. They don't like cold waters. That's why tropical systems weaken when they get way up in the North Atlantic, right? So this is the Southwest Atlantic. This is kind of the area we're probably worried about the most. A lot of model guys locking into this area. Not only are the sea surface temperatures warm, they're above average for this time of the year, for really any time of the year. So you're seeing these 29s, 30s, maybe an occasional 31. That's in Celsius. You turn that into Fahrenheit, it's mid to upper 80s. Some buoys out here are probably reporting sea surface temperatures in the 90s. Of course, the Gulf is just boiling. It's not even comfortable probably to get into these waters anymore. In the Western Caribbean, it's popping off too. So, but listen, tropical system gets into this area. I mean, you combine the favorable upper wind pattern with these sea surface temperatures, it's going to take off. It's going to take off. So the next and last thing we'll look at with this update on the tropics is steering currents. And this can be tricky to explain too. So we're going to start off with Tuesday afternoon. You barely can even see the low pressure on your map. This is the Euro, because on the Euro, it keeps it weak in the shorter term. But our low pressure itself, let's find the best color to use. The low pressure itself is right into here. Very weak, but you can kind of see, a bulge in kind of the ridge right here because of it. This kind of darker colors, kind of the red, more muted red here, and then the more red looking color right here. And then you see the wind barbs, kind of the flag end, and how the flag is pointing towards Africa. That means the flow is coming from east to west. So it's going like this around this ridge influence. Okay, but this ridge isn't that strong. I want to note that right off the dot. But that's the general flow at this point about Tuesday of next week. Low pressure here, and that is why this thing is sort of, in general, kind of moving in this direction. Hope that makes sense. That's the flow around the ridge. Okay, now when we move here in time, all right, we start to get into next Thursday. We get into next Friday, 6 days from now. You can see the low pressure showing up more now because it's strengthening at this point northeast of the Lesser Antilles. So one thing I will note here is now you have some stronger ridging in place right here. You're seeing the brighter reds, that stronger ridging. Okay, so this system at this point has moved into this area and it's being carried by the flow like this. Now maybe your immediate thought is, oh no, this hurricane is definitely going to go right into this direction, or maybe even dip down into here because of this strong ridging influence here. Let me add something. A stronger low pressure is always going to want to gain latitude. Try to turn north, regardless of how strong the ridging is on top. And in my opinion, I don't think this ridging over the Western Atlantic or the Eastern U.S. is very strong. So watch what this system does. The ridge is obviously going to shift back and forth in strength and position. At the same time, you got a strengthening low pressure. So here it is. It's getting stronger. At the same time, this ridge is somewhat weakening. Whether it's weakening because this is breaking it up or it's just weakening in general, you got some stronger ridging over the southern U.S., but you can see you're not seeing any of the more red areas here. So this system not only is getting stronger, fighting to get north as hard as possible, the ridging right here is pretty weak. You can see it's kind of stronger into this area, and over here, but kind of right into here, there's a weakness. That mixed with the fact that this thing's a major hurricane just about at this point. This thing is going to fight to get north. But at the same time, the flow is still like this. So it's still trying to push this and budge this west. So that means that it's not just going to abruptly turn and do this. Which is why you keep this going. Okay? It finally does latch on to maybe a dip in the jet, which would definitely catapult it one way or the other. Now you got a wide open weakness right in here between this high pressure and this high pressure. And this thing is definitely going to get north now. But at this point, the westward flow around the ridge kind of forces this just too close at this point. And it's not able to turn fast enough and then hits somewhere in the northeast. And then obviously brings a lot of impacts to Atlantic Canada on this specific run. You can see the next wave right behind it. Okay, now what about the GFS? What's the difference? Why does it go more so out to sea? Well, the GFS is probably stronger earlier. Same thing though. There's a ridge right here that's trying to go right into, but it finds a weakness faster, and it's a stronger system earlier, so therefore it turns faster, and then it finds that dip in the jet, and then it takes off. But it doesn't take off fast enough because it slips the trough, and then it gets too close to comfort for like Nova Scotia and Newfoundland. But we're just speaking on what ifs at this point. So because of that weakness, that's why you see a lot of recurving past 10 days. Okay, so you're seeing a lot of recurving. So that's an update on the tropics. Now, there we go. We got our update. I was hoping that would happen, and the panel was already ready for us. And sure enough, we have now a 40% chance. I'm sorry, I'm everywhere, guys. We now have that bump up from a 30 to a 40% chance of tropical development. I had a feeling this was going to happen. That's why I wanted to catch this in the update. We missed it by a couple minutes in the beginning of the video, unfortunately, literally a couple minutes. But now we have a 40% chance at this system developing. Let's see if we got an invest out of this. We don't. So this is getting serious, guys. I mean, this is getting real. This is nothing that we're overhyping. I think it's fair to continue to make videos about this and to keep people aware. So here it is. But let's move forward. We never want to leave you hanging with today's forecast unless we have a tropical system literally about to make landfall. But there's a lot of weather that could happen today across the country. We got just a lot of energy across the middle of the country, a lot of severe thunderstorm warnings. It's active in Nebraska, Iowa, up into Minnesota, Wisconsin right now. We got a lot of energy starting to move into the eastern UP. And there's a lot of moisture hanging out off the coast of the southeast also. So a good bit going on this morning across the actual country. Now watches, warnings, and advisories. Okay, we got flood watches littered across the Midwest. We got heat advisories south of this, combination of both. And dare I say, is that a freeze warning? Oof, getting a little bit closer. Getting a little bit closer to the changing of the seasons, right? But, you know, the Storm Prediction Center outlook, slight risk right here, level 2 out of 5. Right here, level 2 out of 5. And, yeah, we just got to watch out for some severe weather in these areas today. There is a 2% risk of a tornado in this region. 2% risk of a tornado here in Colorado and areas of Kansas. And then the wind threats is the highest over here. So we got a 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour in this area of the upper Midwest today. And the hail threat is the highest back west in Colorado and surrounding states. 15% risk of hail exceeding 1 inch in size or larger. And then you have a 10% risk in this black outlined area of hail exceeding 2 inch in diameter or larger. So we could get a lot of severe weather today. The flooding threat could be serious, guys. I mean, there is a moderate risk of flash flooding. If you live in this red area, that's where you have a 40% chance of flash flood guidance being exceeded within 25 miles of any given location for today. So be aware of that. The southeast today, a lot of moisture hanging out over Florida, the Georgia coastline, the South Carolina coastline, a little bit up into North Carolina. We're going to get plumes of moisture into these areas, tropical downpours. Some of these storms could make it into central South Carolina, central Georgia, but they'll be dancing around across the peninsula of Florida all day. And then we get into tomorrow morning, we're probably going to do it again. But rainfall between now and pretty much the weekend, a lot of rain is possible in the South Carolina coastline, the Georgia coastline. You can see this here, so be aware of that. The southeast, northeast, nothing to speak on. It's nice weather. And I mean, there's just not a whole lot to speak on at all. Enjoy your nice day. The south central U.S., some big storms could form in eastern Colorado. Some supercells could produce some big time hail out here. So be aware of this. If you live in eastern Colorado into far western Kansas, big storms possible, including southwest Nebraska. A little bit of shower activity in the panhandle of Texas. And we see a lot of storm activity kind of dropping down into northern Missouri for tomorrow morning. Up here in the north central U.S., we got a lot of weather ongoing right now. More will continue to rage on through midday, early afternoon. Big area storms heading right towards Eau Claire, La Crosse. This will eventually get all the way to Lake Michigan. We'll see how much intact it will be. And then more action will develop behind that. And I think a big flooding threat could be ongoing, potentially across areas of Iowa late tonight. You see a big area of moisture developing. And then we're going to do it all again. Wake up to the same thing tomorrow morning. A lot of storm action in these areas. And, you know, rainfall between now and the weekend pretty much. Several inches of rain is possible. I mean, it's a lot of rain, guys. Over 5, some areas 6 inches of rain forecast in portions of northern Missouri, western Illinois, southeastern Iowa, and southern areas of Wisconsin. So a lot of rain possible. Be aware of this. The western U.S. is what we're looking at. It's pretty quiet. It's heating up in certain areas, cool in others. A little dip in the jet. But otherwise, weather-wise, I mean, just not a whole lot going on. Temperatures starting to warm up across the east. We got this slither of warmth all the way into lower Michigan. Lower Michigan get well into the 90s today. Southeast still hanging on a cloud cover, so keeping you guys cool. And then this is the western U.S. Ridge quickly building back into the west, but there's a dip in the trough here, cooling you guys down, feeling like fall across the northern Rockies. So, hey, that's all I got. Thank y'all for tuning in. God bless all y'all. Appreciate the support, and we'll do it again this evening. So stay tuned for the latest then. Talk soon.